Good morning, guys. We're back in the garage working out here today, and today we are going to be working on the race car. A little update on the silver STI hatch is we had a bunch of parts come in. I did get the heads back. They are fully rebuilt, and it was 2 bent intake valves, so I knew I heard that sound before. Here are our heads. They are right here, all clean, ready to go, fully rebuilt. Everything is in for that car, but I've been working away onto the race car because we have a pretty short time frame, guys. I wanted to get this thing started by the 1st of February. I don't think it's going to happen with how much that we have to do. So with that being said, we are going to be working on this thing today. We are going to be trying to get that transmission in the car. That came in, guys. So big shout out to Prime Motoring, guys, for getting us our fully optioned PPG dog box. Right there, ready to go in the car. Super excited. Actually sit in the car, shift some gears. Never been able to do that in this car yet. But as many of you can relate to being car enthusiasts, and I'm sure you are if you're watching this channel, when you work on your car, it's kind of your getaway from everything, and working on my personal cars is kind of that same thing. So not always do I record, because sometimes it's just nice to work and have it be your getaway. So I have been working in the background a little bit without you guys. As you can see here, we got some new taillights on. So I went ahead and took the taillights that we used to have on our white STI. I had kept those, I had put them on here. Really like the look of it. And as you can see here, I have a new battery cutoff switch on here. So I still need to drill our holes to actually mount this thing, but it is on there. And of course it's not tight, so it's gonna move around. So, but that is all on there. Everything's clearance, ready to put that on. And if you notice, there is no chute on the car. That is because I took the time to paint all the bar assembly for the parachute, and we got our new custom plate made for the car. A lot of you guys are gonna be like, why the heck is it a New Jersey plate? Well, that's because that's where this car is originally from, and it is obviously not registered for the street, so I went ahead. That is a fake plate, that is not a real plate. Had one made for the car, so that way it has something to cover there, because it didn't have a plate on it, so now it does. And we are gonna be focusing on 1, getting the transmission in the car, 2, getting the car wired today. So I went ahead and went with some pretty thick wiring for this thing. And if you look here, this is really nice quality aught gauge. So this is what we're gonna be using. Yes, it is like a speaker kit. This will be more than enough for the car because we don't even have much running off of it. I mean, we'll have our normal, like our headlights, our taillights, you know, our dash, and this car does not have a heater core in it. As I've said before, it does not have any of that motors for the heater system. It also doesn't have, God, I'm drawing a blank around. It doesn't have anything for the fuel system. So since we are running a mechanical fuel pump, we have no power going to our fuel system because it's all mechanical. It is no longer ran off electrical. So kind of nice. We don't have to worry about our electrical system. Aught gauge is more than enough. Even if we had all that stuff, we would be fine with running this aught gauge. So I do have that. We have our battery cutoff switch there. I do have our distribution block mounted up in the car. And this video is kind of going to be 2 things. One, to get in the transmission. One is wiring the car. So for those of you that have never done this, or relocated your battery in the trunk for whatever reason, why you might, or doing a battery cutoff switch, not many know how to do that. So we have our fuse block here that I have gotten in all wired. It is mounted. I went ahead and mounted our distribution block right here. So we have 2 inlets and then 1 of the aught gauge out. And I'm going to run it through here, through the fender, and through into the car. So instead of having it in the engine bay, I would like to keep as much out as I can so we have as clean as the engine bay we can, and plus easier to work on. That's number 1. So what we have here, this is where your battery terminal would usually go on your car. This is actually going to get cut off, go right into our fuse block there. Now it'll be fused, and then we're going to run one from our starter power wire over to here, and then we run our aught gauge back. So super simple. It can be overwhelming when you're just kind of diving in, but it is a really simple system. So we're going to have a fuse there. We're going to run that wire back to our battery cutoff switch, which is going to be fused on the way there, and then we're going to fuse it from the cutoff switch to the battery, so that way we're completely safe. No risk of ever burning the car down because of anything that could ever happen electrical. So that is very important, guys. And like I said, we're going to get jumping right in it. We're going to get this transmission in the car today. I do have the shift linkage in the car, so we can get that all hooked up. This is our new output shaft because this has the IAG output shaft kit in here that is upgraded, so it has a bigger spline. So we're going to need this to put on our drive shaft, but for now that can sit on there. So let's go ahead, get this thing off of this pallet, underneath the car, and up in it. First things first, before we get this transmission off the pallet, I'm going to go ahead and pull the front of the car apart because we do not want to scratch our newly painted parts. So I'm going to get the bumper pulled off. I'm going to tape on the bottom so we can sit it to the side. We are probably going to have to get the car up in the air a little bit higher so we can get this transmission slide underneath of it. We'll double check once I get the bumper off because it kind of gives you the illusion that it's lower with that lower piece there. But we are going to get that off and get to work. Couldn't be more excited. I don't know how well you guys can see me in here. I'm trying to set the camera up the best I can. And in fact, it probably might be better if I have the door open so there's more light. I know this camera does pretty good about it. But leave down in the comments how many of you guys have project cars and you sit in them like this, even though they don't run. Gives you a sense of accomplishment, especially when you put your brand new dog box transmission in and you can sit here and run it through and every gear works. So pretty excited. Not going to do it too much, not that it probably would hurt it anyway since there is no fluid in it. The fluid is on the way, so we are going to be using a special fluid that was told to use on it. So that is on the way, but definitely gives you the sense of accomplishment. I mean, be able to sit in here, this is my first time sitting in the car since we got it all together with the interior. I still keep going back and forth whether or not I'm going to paint the cage before we go to Texas. You know, we hit a point where I'm still waiting on parts or I'm waiting on something else and I have time to do it, I'm definitely gonna paint the cage. That way I just don't have to worry about it rusting or anything like that. For now, I've just been wiping it down with WD-40 as told by Ranchbuilt to do that. So my main focus right now is obviously to get the car running, and from there we can start focusing on more of the little details. But this is one big step further, guys. We now have our transmission in. And now with our transmission in, you know what that means. We can start building our motor, because It is a lot easier, as you guys see, to get the transmission in without the motor, especially with how heavy these things are. When you're by yourself, it's just easier to do it this way. It takes no time. Got the transmission all the way in. We still need to throw our front axles in. I do need to clean up on the passenger side. I like to just go through and thoroughly clean. Like I said, we are building this car from the ground up, so it's pretty much just like a restoration project for me. Even though, you know, obviously it's not that old of a car or have that many miles on it, but it's been a race car its whole life, so whatever it's been through, you know, you can see oil and grease and whatever it may be on a lot of the suspension parts from whatever may have happened in its past. So just cleaning that all off, have a fresh starting point. That way too, it helps if something does happen, I can see where it's coming from versus having a bunch of fluids and stuff on there. So it just makes more sense to keep it clean. That way I can see for future. But super excited, guys. We got this transmission in. Now we can jump back out to the outside, which is kind of fun to get in and out. But we need to take off the driver headlight, driver fender, then we can get in our fuel tank on the driver's side, because we did have to pull that back out, make some modifications to it that we needed to get done. Thank you to Ranchbuilt for getting those done. So we got that thing. It's got to go back in. We still have to run our wiring in the front for the headlights, and then we can start running our power wire. So I think what I'm going to do first is we're going to pull the headlight, pull the fender back off, which kind of sucks because I got the fender all the way on. And I put the dang trim piece on too. Thought about that when I put it on, that I was going to have to pull it back off. Yeah, we're going to have to pull it back off. So we're going to get that fender back off, run this wire, secure it, get it in the car, then we can put the fender back on, and we should be good from there, not to have to pull the body panels off again. So let's go ahead, get that headlight out, get that fender off, get to it. So as you guys saw there, I did go ahead and loom our power wire. I got this nice braided mesh on there, heat shrunk it, and we are back into working in the garage because it's kind of cold outside, so I closed the door. So a little bit different camera angles, I do apologize, but I'm really happy of how this is coming out, how clean this is, how tucked up it is. original power, we still need to wrap that some electrical tape from the fuse box in. This will be our starter out, which obviously is not there right now, but this is ran around. Now maybe I'm gonna show you guys how we did this. This comes around the main harness here and gets tucked up nicely above the actual frame rail. So if anything ever were to happen at this coming up, it's gonna hit metal long before that, which this should never go that high, but just in case it did, that runs down, comes down with the original harness, down into, I don't know if it's gonna show the lighting, but there's an original rubber grommet up there that goes into. Coming into the car, you can tell we have our wire there, and I did put an OEM Subaru mat in here so we don't get it dirty. So now our wire's in here, obviously our whole interior is gonna have to come apart because we need to run this underneath the carpet. That brings me back to what I was talking about, painting the cage. So what I might do is pull this thing apart and leave it somewhat apart until we get it running to see, you know, if we have a hiccup or something to where I can paint the cage. So I gotta get that torn apart, get that wire back. We gotta put a fuse in. That's why you guys saw me cut the wire, because we need to put a fuse in. I still have some wire here, which I'm really hoping that we can get to the back of the car, but I think no matter what, I'm gonna have to end up getting some wire. So that's the only crappy part. I forgot that we had some extra wire that we were gonna bring, but I just didn't grab it. So I'm gonna run this back and then decide if we're gonna be able to go there today and get it. I really wanna see this thing power on today, guys. That's what my goal is. So let's see how far I can get, and I'm gonna pull the interior apart, get my fuse ran. I need to go to the back of the car, and I did get some bolts for that battery cutoff switch. But now that we have our battery cutoff switch back here, I'm gonna go ahead, you can see there's no trim plate on here. So I'm gonna go ahead, get that thing wired, and that's where I'm saying I might need some more wire. So, debating here, whether I use the wire I got to run from here to the battery, which we need to go get a battery too, or use it to run from there to here. I guess I'll see how far we get into the car and how far that wire is going to come back, and then we're going to decide from there if I can go get wire or not today, because today they're getting the tires mounted onto the rims for the hatch STI, so I'm kind of stuck at home waiting for that because it is the mobile wheel and tire guy. So that's why I'm saying I don't know if I'm going to be able to run in town. Really kind of wish I could. Well, let me run this wire, see what we're dealing with. Maybe we won't even have to deal with it. So let's see what happens. So that wasn't nearly as bad as I expected. I was able to pull this panel up, pull that one out there. I got the wire ran all the way down underneath of this thing just in a couple minutes, to be honest with you guys. And my cut is back here, which is exactly where I wanted it, because I can hide it right underneath the cage here. It's nice and protected for one fuse block. Now I'm gonna run it across here to tunnel on the bottom and then across. That way it's underneath the carpet there, and then back up that way, because obviously our battery box is back there. But this wire needs to let me rephrase. This wire needs to run to our battery cutoff switch, and it ends right there. So that's obviously not gonna be long enough. So I'm gonna be using this piece here for the very back, from the switch to the battery. And we are gonna need to go get some more wire, because this is definitely not gonna be long enough. So I'm gonna measure that. I haven't heard back from the wheel and tire guy, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and go run into town, as much as I don't want to, and get that knocked out. Because like I said, guys, I want to see this thing power up today. I want this video to be interesting. I want you guys to learn from it, and you guys have seen me put transmissions in before, so we are gonna do our absolute best to finish doing this wiring for this car. So let's go ahead, run in town, get that wire. It's gonna be about an hour, and then I'll catch you guys back up. All right, guys, we are jumping a good bit ahead, and I told you guys we were going to, but just because this was gonna be way too much for a time lapse, and you might be able to tell by clothing, I'm into the next day. We worked very late at night on this. Jerome actually came over and helped out, and I know a lot of you miss him on the channel. He will be here a little bit later, but we got this thing all set up, super happy. Got the switch all mounted on the back bumper, some nice stainless hardware on here, simple on-off switch. We got our battery all into its tray. Got the biggest battery I could put in there, honestly. And a lot of you will be like, why didn't you get an Odyssey battery or a small battery? I would rather have a full-size battery, so I never have to worry about cranking this thing over or having a dead battery or one of those things with the car. So my cover you can see is laying here for my fuse block. I do need to get a little bit smaller screws in there because it's stopping this from going on. So I still need to do that. But you can see our wires coming in. They are nice, shielded into the body. They have a nice grommet there. Everything came really good together. I might be able to show you underneath here what it looks like. But there's our switch. Our wires coming down, ground comes down to the body, right on the frame. Everything looks really good. And the best part, guys, it's finally time to turn this thing on. See this thing have power. Couldn't be more excited. I saved this moment just for you guys. So looking in here, I knew we had power judging by our cluster is now trying to tell me stuff. So that is a good sign. I'll turn the key on. See? Oh, she is coming alive. Obviously we're gonna have every light on in the book because we don't have anything in this thing. But if you guys look at that, that is real miles on this chassis. 2,600 miles, guys, 2015 STI. And there's our nice boost gauge assembly up there. Still have that guy up there. Everything is coming together. It is such a relief to see this thing turn on and have some power going to the cluster. Obviously there's nothing else in this car because we're still working on that. I do need to still run our harness for the front of the car. You can tell it's on the ground here for our headlights. So that is going to be the next step. I'm going to get that knocked out before I end this video out so you guys can see that we have working headlights. The taillights though, remember I told you guys about the harness being cut, and that seems to have led into the back of the car, and they have cut off the taillight harness. I'm guessing for when they made their custom harness. So if any of you are watching, have a 2015 to 2021 WRX or STI that you're parting out and you want to sell me this harness where you can cut the pigtail off, because it's really all I need. I really don't want to have to try to run a whole new side harness in here. But if you want to cut that pigtail off and sell it to me, I'd be more than happy to buy it. So go ahead and leave a comment down below. Also, the one last piece I would buy as well is going to be that brake switch plug. Same years would work. I do need that, so that way when I hit the brakes, brake light slide up. So if you guys know anyone parting out a car around you or anywhere, please comment down below and we can get that on here. Now, time to get our custom headlight on there. That's the one that's all cut out for our Turbski, and get the front of this car all wired up. So let's get that knocked out, and we'll be finishing out this video with a fully wired working car, and we can focus on the motor. Look who we got. What's up? Jrtuned in the house. Now we got our headlights. I'm gonna turn our battery back on. We got our headlight wiring mocked up, not finished by any means, but they do work. So now that we've tested that, I can go ahead and redo all the wiring on it. But as you can tell, we have a nice even cutoff. Our headlights are working. You can see my harness is literally just loosely ran across here. There is our cutout headlight. Boom, still works.
Sea lights doesn't work, but
whoa. I don't know why the sea lights aren't working, so gonna have to look into that. Captain Obvious had to out me.
Well, you know someone's gonna say something.
Yeah. So we're gonna dive into that a little bit later, but there's other things I gotta get done today, and we've been working on this thing non-stop. So that is gonna wrap up the video today for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed our progress on it, how far we've gotten. Now we are to the point to where obviously we need to finish that wire harness up front, but we're at the point of where we can start focusing on the motor for this car. So super excited, get this thing together, not see a bare engine bay anymore. So it's finally time. For now, that's gonna end it out. So I'll see you guys in the next video.
Living life up in the fast lane. Hey. Living life up in the fast lane. And I ain't slowing down, I ain't slowing down, I ain't slowing down. Living life up in the fast lane. Pedal to the ground.